Joining us, though, right now, with a lot to talk about, is Eliot Shorr-Parks, sponsored by Cozy Jewelers. Step up to the 50. That's color, cut, clarity, carrot, and cozy. Eliot, how are we doing today?
What up? A lot to talk about. You're right. Excited to get into all of it.
All right, let's start. And we saw you here this morning, so let's start with the topic at hand today. Where do you come down, and what's your reaction to the Castellanos-Rob Thompson situation, which went from 0 to 60 pretty fast with a benching for a guy that's played every game for years?
Yeah, I think it's really, really bad, and I think people are in somewhat denial about what this could be an indication of. I guess the best way I would try to explain my opinion on it is, imagine this happened last year with the Sixers. Imagine if Joel yelled at Nick Nurse walking off the court and he got suspended for a game, or if Tyrese Maxey did it. We would all sit there and go, dysfunctional team, they don't get along, this is why they lose in the playoffs. And the Phillies are the Sixers at this point. I know they advanced further in 2022, which is a difference, but they've gone from the World Series to the NLCS to losing in the first round to now, I would say, having not a terrible year for sure, but I think there's definitely been players that have not performed. They're on their last leg. This is it. The ship is going down. Maybe they'll go on a run into postseason, but this is another indication, in my opinion, of that they can feel the tension. I'm sure it wasn't the first time he said something to Topper. Otherwise, there's no way he would have suspended him. And they're just a team that's falling apart. So could they make a postseason run? Sure. Anything's possible. But I think if you look at what's happening, it's very clear what's happening. They're falling apart.
Well, hopefully that's not it. But there's obviously some indications that the thing is not as strong as we want it to be right now. Eliot, I made the comparison earlier, Nick Sirianni, and the Eagles have a lot of strong personalities, and I would be surprised if a guy yelled at Sirianni on the sideline. We saw Jalen Carter do it last year, and he benched him. Like, it's one thing to take a player off the field for a offense-defense thing like he did, in that game, and he felt it was the right decision. But he invited an emotional player to get emotional. Like, I just think the benching yesterday was heavy-handed because he got emotional in the dugout. It just feels like something Nick Sirianni wouldn't do.
And I do think Castellanos overreacted just to get pulled late in the game and to react like that. Now, I guess there's no video of it. No one knows what he said, so who knows? But obviously it was bad enough where Topper felt the need to pull him. And the thing that can't be lost in this too is it did end his consecutive start streak, which is a big deal to get rid of. Just to pull that, I mean, if he was on no streak, it would still be a big deal. But there is, without question, another layer of this decision where if you pull him, that matters. And I would also say, just from my experience covering the Eagles all these years, and not the Phillies as closely as I cover the Eagles, but when something like this happens, normally it's been happening for a while, and then we just hear about it. You brought up the Jalen Carter thing where he yelled at Nick last year. I think a better indication would probably, or a better comparison would be when he was suspended or, didn't start that one game.
Atlanta, week 2.
Yeah, right, exactly. Like, that was not a one-time offense thing. That was probably, hey, we need you to take this more seriously based off a few things, and here's how we're going to show you that. I think with Castellanos, the chances this is a one-time thing are extremely slim. And if it is, then that's a massive overreaction by Topper, which also speaks to the fact that things don't seem to be great with that team right now. So, again, I just think people are in denial that we're just watching the Sixers all over again. No one wanted to believe in the Sixers at the end. I don't see why people believe in the Phillies.
Yeah, neither situation is good, right? If it's a multi-time thing, that's not good. And if he did overreact to one thing, that's not great either on Topper. So there's a lot going on with the Phillies. All right, Eliot, before we get to a topical thing for next week with the Sixers and your reaction to the Ace Bailey story yesterday, we got to go through your top 11 list. Hugh, did you hear or see Eliot's top 11?
No, I saw his number 1, and then he had he channeled his inner Ike Reese, and he put the whole offensive line up there. I saw a little bit of it, so I saw a few things.
Felt like cheating, the O-line thing.
I got to say that the afternoon show making this rule and then Jack not doing it feels like a real betrayal there. Like, they made the rule. I didn't come up with the Eagles offensive line thing. They said that you were allowed to do it. I did it playing by the rules, and now I'm being shamed for it. Yep. It feels very unfair.
Well, okay, so I guess it's their rule, but doesn't it feel like a cop-out? I mean, you get to include, I don't even know if you think of the right guard as part of it, or just like the 4 guys you might consider, right? Mailata, Lane, Dickerson, Cam. It feels like, I don't know, when I look at your list and I look at Ike's list, it feels like 8, 9, 10, 11, they're not really on the list. They're just kind of stuffed in there because we could have 5 guys at number 2.
Well, of course it's a cop-out. It's absolutely a cop-out, but they invented the rule. I will say, for those that are so offended by this, if I had to not do offensive line as one thing, I would put Lane at number 2, where I currently have the offensive line.
Right.
And I would take Devontae off of 11 and put my Lotta there. So for everyone that's so offended by this Eagles offensive line grouping, that's how I would do it if I had to play by not the rules.
Oh, I'm glad we cleared that up. All right, we're past that now. All right, some of the things I like on the list. I mean, I'm with you on Kyle Schwarber. Both had him at 5. He is a more productive player right now than Bryce. But Eliot, number 1, Jalen Hurts. I mean, I know I was in the car yesterday, so I heard you. But I just want you to take us through your thinking as you got there. How is he above Saquon Barkley? Like, he's just not as good of a player.
So I'm not watching the YouTube right now. Do you have your doctor's coat on again?
I do not today.
No, you don't
to
have
diagnose me? No, because I actually think in some ways you're the one that needs the diagnosing and has the amnesia.
Well, I was called a quack yesterday. I was called a quack.
I mean, do you remember the Super Bowl? Like, it did happen.
Very
right?
well. Do you remember weeks, I don't know, like, 6, 7, 5, 3, when the 1 through 4?
I do.
Okay.
I do. But you know what? Where have we gotten to as a media and as a media base and a fan base where we are prioritizing weeks 6, 7, 3, and whatever as much as we're prioritizing the Super Bowl? For as long as I have been in Philadelphia, there are 2 things that have mattered more than anything else. 1, the quarterback of the Eagles, and 2, the postseason. And if you want to say we're exaggerating on the postseason, ask Joel how much the postseason means, because Joel has been an extremely dominant regular season player, but I guarantee you if I asked you on any given day what you think of Joel, you would say his career is remembered for losing in the postseason.
Yes.
So the hypocrisy for you to now prioritize the regular season over what Jalen did in the postseason goes against everything we've ever done in this city. So for me,
so it's not hypocrisy because this is where the amnesia
you just brought up week 6 and 7 when I said he won the Super Bowl.
Well, how about this? How about week 19 or whatever the heck the divisional round was? Eliot, we're acting as if every playoff game was dominant. He was this close to the reason they got knocked out by the Rams. He took 7 sacks, a safety included in that, and a sack to take him out of field goal range. That happened 2 weeks before the Super Bowl.
You're right.
But we say postseason, we're lumping everything in. He was not very good in the Rams game. I think we all know that. He was probably the biggest reason they were not going to move on if not for Jalen Carter's sack. So, I can't just pretend it's all great when the postseason was just like the regular season. He had ups and downs.
Nobody's asking you to pretend. No one's asking you to forget the regular season. No one's asking you to forget the Rams game. I think what I'm asking of you is, if I could put my doctor coat on, is to correctly prioritize what the different things are. You're right. They almost lost to the Rams.
Yes.
Welcome to every postseason run ever by a champion, right? The Eagles in 2017. Nick Foles wasn't great against the Falcons. Guess what? We never talk about that Falcons game. When we talk about Nick, we bring up the championship game and the Super Bowl. I hear nobody ever bring up, well, he wasn't great against the Falcons. So you're right. Jalen was not great against the Rams. He was not. But when the 2 most important games of the year were played, the 2 most important games, like by a mile, he was unbelievable in those 2 games. So I will give you and acknowledge that, yes, there were stretches where he was not good. I just don't see how a true football man like you can prioritize those over the postseason. It makes 0 sense to me.
Well, but because we're talking about who's the best player in the city, not like, hey, what matters to me more. Of course, what you're saying, I agree to an extent with. Those games are more important, and that's a huge part of the story.
Who'd you have at number 1?
Saquon Barkley.
All right. So let me ask you this, okay? I think that and I've heard you say this, right? How many quarterbacks could win the Super Bowl with that Eagles team? Probably, we can go through the list. 5, 6, whatever you want to say. You might say more. I might say less.
Yeah, probably somewhere in the 6 to 8 range. I don't know, something like that.
How many running backs could run for 2,000 yards behind that offensive line?
Not many. I mean,
no, I disagree. I think the same amount of quarterbacks. This offensive line turned Miles Sanders into a Pro Bowler. They turned DeAndre Swift into a Pro Bowler. And for some reason with Saquon, we act like, and I'm not even trying to diminish what he's doing. I'm just drawing a comparison. We all love to act like it's all Saquon. It wasn't all Saquon. The offensive line made Saquon more than Saquon made the offensive line. And that's fine. That's how football works. But why is it only with Jalen? It's about, well, these quarterbacks could do it. These quarterbacks could do it. But with Saquon, we just act like it was all him, and he came in.
But he's a home run hitter.
As a rookie, he had 5 yards to carry behind the Giants' offensive line. Last year, he had 5.8. Yeah, he upticked, but he played with the Giants and had 5 yards to carry.
You not see him run past literally every player on the field like a million times last season? That's not something just
great.
DeAndre Swift or Miles Sanders can do. Like, that was the difference between Saquon Barkley and just any run-of-the-mill running back.
Could Derrick Henry do what Saquon did?
Yeah.
But he also
Okay. I never hear you bring that up when talking about Saquon. But whenever you bring up Jalen's accomplishments, it's always Josh. No, there's more than there's other guys. Jahmyr Gibbs, I bet, could have done it. I think maybe Josh Jacobs could have done it. There are probably other players, right? So Bijan Robinson, who knows what Bijan Robinson would have done behind this line? So why does it matter that other people could do what Jalen did, but not that other people could do what Saquon?
Well, I think we're conflating two debates: the top quarterback debate and then the top player in the city. Who's a better football player? I mean, who's going to say Jalen Hurts a better football player? Nobody.
I am going to say that. He has a more important job. He has a more important job. He has a tougher job. He has way more impact.
Let me address that.
Another difference is Saquon had production while Jalen.
What did Jalen have?
They were the 29th ranked passing team in the league last year.
I'm guessing you're doing that. So I'm guessing you're doing that by total passing yards.
No, he had the wins and not the production.
But that's not true. That's not true.
No, it is
true.
He did
have production. No, you're just ignoring all the rushing touchdowns and rushing yards. You're only looking at passing.
The rushing touchdowns that they got down to the 1 yard line with Saquon
but is that
and
not
everybody
production?
else.
All right, do we want to take all the running touchdowns away from running backs that got him from 3 yards out? I don't see you ever diagnosing how Saquon scored his touchdowns. So you're right.
No, hold on. We know the tush
push
is very different than a running back taking it from the front.
As you just giggled.
How is it any different? How is a running back running it in from 1 yard any different?
Because the entire league wanted to take the tush push out. They know how effective it was. It's not even a debate.
I just want to throw an analogy in here, because we're arguing a lot of different things. When I say amnesia yesterday, I'm not trying to say the end isn't the most important. I'm saying we're just deciding to forget the whole story. But that's what's happening.
Nobody's deciding to forget that. That's what you're missing. I remember it.
No, I don't think you do. Elliot, if you were reading a book,
I lived it.
If you were reading a book chapter by chapter, and every time I saw you, I asked you how the book was, and you said, it's not that great. And then 5 weeks later, 7 weeks later, you finished the book. You said that last chapter was really awesome. I can't forget that every time I saw you, you said the book wasn't that good. Every week we talked about the passing game, the quarterback. It wasn't that good.
You're right. So, those things happen.
That's the story. That's the story.
No. That's part of the story, and it's the less important part of the story. If someone asked me a week later, "Hey, would you recommend this book?" I'd go, yeah, the ending was unbelievable. You should read it." I wouldn't be like, "Nah, the middle part wasn't great, but so don't check it out."
I didn't say don't recommend it. But...
No. But you are saying that because you're prioritizing the part of the book that's less important.
No, but if you're comparing it to another book,
where did we get to? Where did we get to as a media?
Is the better one.
That ask Donovan McNabb how much the postseason matters compared to the regular season. For years, McNabb's name has been basically drawn through the mud because he didn't win a Super Bowl, even though he had amazing regular seasons all the time.
Right.
But the one thing he didn't win was the Super Bowl, and that's why people don't rank him properly. And now Jalen does the exact opposite. He does what he wanted. Everybody wanted Donovan to do. Jalen did. And now we're being told the regular season's actually just as important. So I didn't forget it. I just prioritized them correctly.
But here's the issue. Everyone's getting sensitive. We're parsing greatness here. I have Jalen on my list. I didn't say he's 20th in Philadelphia right now. I have him on my list. I didn't say he's a bad quarterback. I have him, I think he belongs in that 5-6 range.
Where do you have him? That's crazy. He's the quarterback of the Eagles. It's the most important job in the city. He won the Super Bowl. Sometimes things are just simple. When you're the quarterback of the Eagles and you win the Super Bowl, that's your number one. It is what it is. That's how simple it is.
Here's how simple we're going to make it then. Let's say next year they win it again. In the Super Bowl, Jalen Hurts hands the ball off 75 times and he throws it once. What are you going to say?
Still the quarterback of the Eagles.
It's that simple?
Yeah, that's simple.
Yeah, it is that simple.
No, it's not. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense.
Okay, all right. Well, then how about this? During the regular season then, let's not put all the pressure on the quarterback. If we're going to distribute this equally, where everybody has just as much to do with wins, then let's talk about everybody and not make Jalen the focus of it every week, right? We do that. We did it to Carson. We did it to everybody. When you're the quarterback of the Eagles, it matters more. And so when it comes to then giving him props for what he accomplished, I can't then sit back and be like, well, other players helped. You're right. Other players did help. Jalen probably wouldn't be as successful other places if he wasn't with the Eagles. But all these hypotheticals you throw out, he is here. He did win the Super Bowl. And so to now all of a sudden decide winning as a quarterback in the regular season matters more than the postseason.
That's not what I said.
That's the issue I have. But it is what you're saying by having him fifth or sixth.
I guess what I saw, I guess I just saw it different. When I watched the Super Bowl, you know what I saw? They should have done that all year. If he played well, which he played really well the last 2 games, they were so good that they took apart a dynastic team and they took apart a Commanders team that went to Detroit the week before and Tampa the week before that and won. The only reason those games were close during the season is the quarterback didn't see open guys and didn't pull the trigger.
You're right.
But but that's the point. And how could I give him an A+ when he was the reason?
No one's asking you to give him an A+.
But that you are.
Nobody's asking you to give
you're
him.
number one, if you're number one in Philadelphia, you're A+. When Saquon Barkley's a Hall of Fame caliber player, Lane Johnson's a Hall of Famer, Zach Wheeler looks like a Hall of Fame pitcher, Bryce Harper's a Hall of Famer. Like if you're number one in Philadelphia, you are an all-time player, and he hasn't been that yet.
What do you think Jalen is?
He's an
gone
all-time
to 2 Super Bowls in 3 years. He puts up crazy stats every year. You can ignore the rushing all you want. What do the rushing yards and touchdowns just not count now? Have we gone so far the other way that we don't even count them? Passing is not the only part of the game. Now I agree, the passing game needs to improve. You are 100% correct about that. The passing game needs to improve.
Yes.
I can't believe we are so fixated on the passing game needs to improve that we're diminishing all the other accomplishments he had in an effort to be like, well, he's maybe 6 or 7. No, he's not.
Well, wait a second. You just gave the offensive line credit for Saquon. Well, the offensive line doesn't get credit for all those touchdowns?
No, they do get credit for it. They all get credit for it.
But you're using that as his numbers.
But you're the only one. You're the only one taking credit away from Jalen and not Saquon, because we have seen running back after running back be successful.
He's a better football player.
Like it's not even close. Like we have eyes.
No, first of all, you keep saying that, but that's not true. Jalen's job, you can't even compare him, number one. That's like saying Jake Elliott's a better kicker because he's like
I'm
one of the
glad
best
you went
kickers
there.
in
I'm glad you went there.
I'm glad I went
because
there.
You went to the importance of the quarterback, all right? The importance of the quarterback.
Yes.
Well, but at some point, there's got to be some common sense to this, right? Like, let's go back. You remember it. I remember it too. We were doing our old Eagles podcast together. If there was if there was a top 11 in 2015, Sam Bradford was a more important player because his position than Fletcher Cox. In no world was Sam Bradford a better player than Fletcher Cox then. So do we just have to put every Eagles quarterback, regardless of skill, at higher than they belong?
No, how about here's a common sense rule. Well, if the Eagles don't make the playoffs that year, then we don't view the quarterback differently than we do now. Okay. Jalen won the Super Bowl, and you're asking me to compare him to No.
Yeah,
no.
Well, that's
no.
Yeah.
We cannot do the quarterback win-loss record thing all the time and do the quarterback matters the most. But now all of a sudden it's the team. And to be clear, I did this with Carson. When everybody was telling me Carson's better, he doesn't have any help, blah, blah, blah. I said week after week, they're not winning consistently with Carson, and that's on him. You were with me on that.
Yes.
We were both anti-Carson.
I just don't know why we have to go so far. Winning. Like, why are we at the point where we have to elevate him higher than he has to be? He's one of the 5 or 6 best quarterbacks in the NFL, and he's one of the best 11 players in Philadelphia. Why is that offensive to people?
Because you want to know why?
Yeah.
Because he has to bear the burden of being the quarterback all year. And then when he wins the Super Bowl,
it's about feelings.
That's absolutely
it's about everyone's feelings than facts.
It's not about feelings. No, it's not. Well, but you just want to ignore the facts. You and Kyle just want to ignore part of the facts. No. But if you want to talk about like why it's being disrespectful, I agree with you. If you want to have him 2, 3, whatever. But to have him 6 or 7 really
I actually had him
not
9. I had him 9.
Yeah, see, that's insane to me. And that really tells me you probably didn't want to put him on the list, but you just did. So he should obviously...
Where'd you have Zach Wheeler? Where'd you have Zach Wheeler?
I had Zach Wheeler 8.
Me and him bad about the same.
Zach Wheeler is one of the...
Did I miss something? Where's Zach Wheeler's World Series ring? Did he win one and I missed it? You would think they won.
We're blaming pitchers, starting pitchers for the World Series.
Yeah, great.
No.
He's one of the greatest resumes in the history of October. When he's on the mound, he dominates.
You're right.
Like, you know what I've never seen? I've never seen the 7 home run game that he allowed in the playoffs. I've never seen that.
You're right about that. But you know who else had an incredible resume? Who? Donovan McNabb. And all he ever has to hear about is he didn't win it.
Well, he didn't play well in playoff games. He didn't play well in playoff games
in 2022.
No, but Zach Wheeler always pitches. Zach Wheeler always pitches well. Donovan crapped the bed in playoff games. We've never seen Wheeler do that. All he does is dominate.
So what you're saying is winning championships doesn't matter to you.
No, it's about how the player plays. Like that.
And Jalen is also a great player. I'm not sitting here advocating
he's
for
a very good
Avonte
player.
Maddox
he's a
to be
very
number 1.
good player. He's not.
No, he's a great player.
He's not consistent. He's not consistent enough. He's not. He's just not.
There is almost nothing on his resume that you could point to other than a future Hall of Famer. It's just a fact. You can ignore it all you want. He's been to 2 Super Bowls. He's won 1. He wins 80% of his starts. That's what gets quarterbacks into the Hall of Fame.
That's wonderful.
So
There's a lot of people in the Hall of Fame that are there because their team was great played and they were part of the team. It doesn't make them.
You're right. That is part of it.
But
football's a team game.
That's what it is. Why is that offensive?
So why is Saquon so clearly number one, but he doesn't get help by his team?
We've seen him perform really well on bad teams.
Yes.
Jalen's only ever in his entire career been propped up
on bad teams.
No, that's not true. You can say that all you want, but in 2021, they were not supposed to make the playoffs.
Right, and how did he look?
He helped take that.
No.
Did they go to the playoffs? They overachieved.
Oh my gosh, they ran the ball the whole second half of the season.
Okay, so listen to what you're doing. You're saying winning the Super Bowl and making the playoffs in 2021, not that special. Averaging 5 yards a carry for the Giants, I'm supposed to sit here and be like, oh yeah, you're right, he's unbelievable. Saquon's career was a bust prior to coming.
We are putting together team success and player individual performance. That's what we're doing.
But I never hear you bring up team success when it comes to Saquon. It's always, oh, he's amazing. Look at everything he does. Look at what he did, and he is amazing, and he did do great things. But he never did any of that before he came to the Eagles.
But you're right. I'm not doing that. I didn't say Saquon's won because he won the Super Bowl. That's what you're doing.
Because winning the Super Bowl matters.
The Eagles won the Super Bowl. Lane Johnson's number one. Lane Johnson.
No.
Who's a better football player, Lane Johnson or Jalen Hurts?
It's probably Lane Johnson.
And he won the Super Bowl more than Jalen Hurts has.
You're right, and that's why I have him number 2. That matters. But you have decided all of a sudden to diminish the impact of the quarterback, which is fine. But
no, you know who decided to diminish the impact of the quarterback? The Eagles decided to diminish the impact of the quarterback.
That's not correct.
But it is.
That's not correct either.
They obviously did. They took the ball out of his hands.
You've gone too far with this. You know how many big plays Jalen made on third down this past year?
How many he made? Tell him, Elliot. How many he made?
Time and time again.
Who else is going to make the big plays on third down? He's the quarterback.
So now he's the one that has to make the big plays. He's a quarterback. But
early
in the Super Bowl,
game,
in the championship game, then it's the whole team.
Early in the game, they took the ball out of his hands more than any team in the NFL took the ball out of their quarterback's hands. They, in neutral script, they ran the ball more than anyone. They didn't want him to throw.
You're right, but he did throw. He did throw the ball. And the number one reason they won as much as they did last year was the lack of turnovers. That was it. That's number one.
Because they stopped throwing the ball so much.
No, but first of all, everything gets scripted or everything gets over-exaggerated. He still threw the ball quite a bit. It's not like he threw it 7-8 times a game. He still threw the ball a good amount. You are right. They should need to throw it more next year. I agree with you on that. But what a minute thing that we're talking about here. We're talking about winning the Super Bowl. We're seriously debating what's more important, winning the Super Bowl or how many times the ball was thrown.
No, it's about consistent excellence.
No, that is what you're debating.
He's just not. I'm sorry. If this offends people, then we've gotten softer than I've ever seen. He's not a consistently excellent player. I'm sorry.
I just don't think anyone's fighting you on that.
Yes,
we're just saying
that's what number one is.
He's number one on your list. That should be consistent excellence plus the resume.
No. I think number one on the list, he deserves it because he's the quarterback. He's the quarterback of the team. Again, no one's disputing that he can't be. No, it is great logic. It's a logic we've used for 30 years in this city, and all of a sudden now we don't want to use it.
Would Nick Foles have been number one?
Nick Foles is a completely different case. Nick Foles didn't start the entire season. Jalen played the whole year.
But the Super Bowl. Played great in the Super Bowl.
And for what it's worth, I've heard people say Foles is ahead of McNabb on the all-time list.
He's been on the Mount Rushmore. I do recall that because I caught a lot of heat for that Nick Foles.
If you want to bring up Foles, Foles is a great example of how we prop people up because they win a Super Bowl.
Way to go, Elliot.
But why are we doing it again? If we don't like that, let's stop doing it.
Way to use the words,
It's a mistake to do that.
I am fine dying on the island of you win the Super Bowl, you get propped up. If you don't want to die on that island, I'll miss you. I wish you were on the island, but I'm fine dying on that island.
To me, and we got to take a break.
Just removing too much logic from the
No, you're removing the logic.
Way to use words, Elliot. Way to use those words.
You removed an entire stat to try to make your argument.
We are disrespecting the rest of the team. By giving him the credit for it, instead of saying the team, we're disrespecting one of the great Eagles teams of all time. It's crazy.
Welcome to football. Welcome to football.
But why are we doing it?
Ask Q how it felt probably when he was
He's
on
not a football guy anymore.
But you admitted yesterday that nobody's being logical about the whole thing.
This guy's
Hey, way to use those words, Elliot.
I'm trying.
Can we end with this? Are we ready to agree that Ace Bailey's a loser or not yet?
Oh, I love the Ace Bailey stuff. Oh, my God. It's so funny to me.
He wants to be a wizard and score 25 points on a 25-win team. That's what he wants.
The Sixers need a star so badly. And this guy comes out and says, I want to be a star. And we're all like, oh, no. Okay, fine. Go draft someone that wants to be a role player. See how that works out for you. They need a new alpha on the team, a new personality. And this guy has it. I would absolutely take Ace Bailey.
He's got to run far away. All right, Elliot, this was fun. We appreciate it. Yes. You have a great rest of your week, and we'll talk soon. Thank you, Elliot.
I'll talk to you later.
All right, there he goes. Elliot Shorr-Parks. Ridiculous. In every single way.